Here's our top story.
KTAR News, 92.3 FM, Arizona's news station.
Unfortunately, it's a morning that none of us ever want to face, but Chief Williams joins us from the Phoenix Police Department. Let's start with what happened this morning. Can you reset the scene and what happened with your officers this morning?
So thanks for having us here, Mike. So first and foremost, we have a radio call of a shooting at a home at 51st Avenue in Lower Buckeye. As one of our officers is approaching to help because there's people hurt inside, the suspect immediately opens fire multiple times on my officer who's there by himself. He's got the wherewithal to get back in a Tahoe to get some help, but there is another person who comes out, and there's a baby. And this individual puts the baby down in front of the door and then gives up and goes back with the officers. Well, there's a baby in the door with an open door. So 4 of our officers go up to retrieve the baby, and they're shot at again. So multiple rounds come through. We were able to return fire at the time. But as we're talking about this, I need to remind people just 2 months ago, Officer Tyler Moldovan was also shot. And thank God he's on the road to recovery. But we had 5 officers who were shot and transported to local hospitals. By God's grace, they're all going to recover. And I also marvel at the fact that we had 3 officers who were struck by shrapnel or bullet fragments who were still at the scene, who are still doing their job, who are still taking care of business. So when we talk about heart, soul, passion, heroism, if that's not heroism, Mike, I don't know what is.
I don't either. And that's the part of the story I want to focus on for a moment. These officers, these 5 officers, I know that you can't give us a lot of details, but who are they?
So they're people who, thank goodness, put on a blue suit and a blue uniform every day, that when you're having the worst day of your life, in spite of the challenges and the odds and the dangers, they do so. And they do so without pause, without fail. So I got folks who've had 2 years on, up to almost 19 years on, who were involved in this critical incident.
So, and just to reset for people to understand, this is the part of policing that people don't often think about. At a time when somebody had already shot an officer,
yes, 4
officers approach an open door to retrieve a baby,
yes,
and they're ambushed,
yes,
and no one leaves the scene even when they're injured.
No. They stayed on scene. So we talk about Phoenix Rising and all these other things. When I think of those 3 individuals who remained at the scene to make sure things were taken care of, it makes my heart ache, because I know that there are folks out there who want to say bad things about law enforcement, and those are the people that are willing to give their lives for someone they don't even know. I do want to give a shout out, if I can, to Glendale Police Department. They let us use their drones. We had another 2-story incident again, and I know, referring back to Commander Greg Carnicle, where that 2-story situation created a crappy tactical dynamic for us. So, and I also want to bring to mind to your listeners, this is the 39th time in our U.S. history, or in this year, that officers from across the country have been shot at and or killed while serving the community.
And it's 6 cops in 2 days. There was a tribal cop in Camp Verde shot yesterday.
Yes.
Let's talk about the suspect as much as you can. What can you tell us about this person?
So I can't tell you much. We literally just left the scene, and the scene was still fairly active. So more information will come out about that individual. But we do need to, as a community, address gun violence. It was senseless. It didn't have to happen. It shouldn't have happened. But my people show up on scene to take care of business and to make sure that this baby is doing fine.
So as the scene progressed this morning, your officers, the ones that are at the hospital, you were able to visit with them. Can you give us any specifics about their conditions other than that they're going to recover, or is that all we know right now?
So that's all we know at the moment. We were able to speak with a couple of them prior to them going into surgery and or prior to them having care. We are aware that 2 have been released from another Valley hospital while 3 still remain hospitalized. Kudos to those individuals and those doctors and nurses and hospital staff at Banner, as well as St. Joseph's Hospital. Just a shout out to you all. You all are always so amazing at taking care of the men and women in blue. You and I have talked often about staffing and about those issues. Does that play a role in this in your mind? I mean, your first officer shows up on scene by himself at the scene of what was reported as a shooting. I don't want to make this political. I'm just curious. Do you believe that staffing is part of this issue? So I don't think in this incident and in this event staffing is the issue. However, when you're having the worst day of your life and you pick up the phone and you call 911, you have an expectation, Mike. And that expectation is that a blue suit rolls in, and a blue suit rolls in safely to take care of your issue and your problem. So we need to beef up staffing and patrol. We've already talked about how patrol is a bread and butter of what we do, but I also want to keep my officers safe, and I also want to keep the community safe. And to do that, we're going to need more people in patrol.
This kind of incident seems to motivate people to action. I think that most of the community, and you know that, most of the community supports law enforcement. But this is the kind of thing that motivates people to action. What does the community need to do to support you guys?
So we were marveling as we were driving, and I have members of my executive team in here with me, how many messages we were getting from people from across the country about what's going on. So I always say this to community members: when you see an officer, if you would just say thank you for your service, you don't know how far that goes in the mind and in the spirit of a police officer. And if you can send a nice note, if you can tie a blue ribbon around the tree, I know our blue ribbon crew is out there. We greatly appreciate that. But more than anything else, if you know someone who wants to be an officer or who wants to work for Phoenix PD, send them our way.
It's also, I think it's beneficial for people to understand that your agency is in shock right now. I mean, this is tough to take. It's human beings. So it's a rough day. If people have an interaction with an officer, if you get pulled over or if it's just an interaction, give them some space and let them know how you feel about it, right? I mean, that does work, right?
Give them some grace, give them some space. None of us wants to get this phone call at 2:30 in the morning. None of us wants to hear the radio code 999. That means one of your officers were hit. So I'm thankful to God that they are recovering. I'm thankful we have support from community members like you, and to all those who reached out to Phoenix PD in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Thank you.
How long do you think, or when will we start hearing some more information about the suspect, why he would do this, motives? I know that right now none of that matters, just getting your officer safe. But and the other woman that was injured, any update on her condition?
So no update on her condition. So again, as I said, we just left the scene. This is going to be a very complex scene. It's going to take them some time to get inside. Hopefully by the end of today, we'll be able to, through the public information officers, be able to push more information out to you.
Is there any word on why the person that gave up put the baby outside, and then is there any reason for that happening, or that person?
So great question. We're still working our way through that one too. So it's in the very early stages of the investigation. As soon as we can release more information, we'll make sure we get that to you.
All right. And then last question on that topic is what was the relationship? Do you know the relationship of the woman on the scene that was critically injured and the suspect?
So thank you for that one too. We're not able to answer that question. I got a whole lot of questions I can't answer because the scene is very dynamic, and we were just barely able to walk into the middle of the crime scene, and the detectives hadn't even remotely got inside.
And the chaos that happens in a situation like this, our reporter Jim Cross was out there and was talking about how close the media was at one point to some of the gunfire.
So I'm not certain about that. It was it's a challenging neighborhood. Everything is very close quarters in there, so I could see why that could be very challenging in that scenario. And
so the officers, you've had 5 officers that were shot, but you're also saying there were other officers that were injured by shrapnel. So there's going to be even more officers that were injured in the line of duty here.
Yes.
By the time it's all said and done.
Right. By the time it's all said and done. But the 3 with shrapnel, they stayed on scene, Mike. They stayed on scene to take care of business, to make sure the scene was secured. That's true heroism to me. I
agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. This is the second time you've been here in just a couple of months for the same reason of officers in Phoenix being shot. Our hearts go out to all of you. I mean, you know how much I respect you, but the community at large, every time I'm out somewhere, the respect for law enforcement. And I'm just so sad that we have to keep meeting up under these circumstances.
So thank you for having us. To the family members of those injured, please send your thoughts and prayers to them, too. When you see a police officer today, especially from Phoenix or anyplace else, just say thank you for your service, because they are the true heroes that we have on the streets every day.